All right, let's move on to the other team in the West who just missed out. Surprisingly, they stayed in it right up until the end, pretty much. The Nashville Predators, they finish just a point behind the Calgary Flames. Of course, they ended the Flames' postseason hopes the other night with a shootout win. Tommy Novak with a really nice goal in that shootout to win it. Man, you got to give Nashville a lot of credit after David Poile completely sold at the deadline, trading out guys like Matthias Ekholm and Tanner Jeannot for a bunch of assets, just to name a few. They also had injuries to key guys like Matt Duchene and Ryan Johansson. But you got to give Nashville a lot of credit, man. They stayed in it right until the end, pretty much. What do you have to say about the Nashville Predators?
Yeah, I mean, right off the top, it's extremely impressive that they stayed in the race at all after selling at the deadline. Not a lot of teams will be able to do that. And, that's just good cap management and roster management and asset management by David Poile and company. And, when he steps down, I think this team is in good hands as well going forward. So, Nashville is in a bit of an interesting spot right now because they have a lot of good players on the roster now, and they have good young players coming up as well to round it out. So, if I'm Nashville, I think I look at this season as just a year where they underperformed a bit, ran into some injuries. And, the other side of the coin, they did expect some regression this year from the season prior. But I think heading into next season, you hope that you can get performance from your key guys somewhere in between where they were last year and how they've performed this year. And I'm talking about guys like Duchene and Forsberg, who, have both been good this year, but Roman Josi is leading the team in points, and he hasn't even played the full season. So, that's a bit of a problem. He's a defenseman. So yeah, and we mentioned unluckiness for Calgary. I think that can be a theme for Nashville as well this season. When I just looked into it quickly, in terms of goals for below expected, they're currently the unluckiest team in the league in that stat. They have the most goals for below expected. They've scored the fewest goals compared to what they were expected to score this year. That's how that stat works. So unlucky, yes, that can be one reason for that number. Also, not having elite finishers, that can be another reason. But again, I think you're looking to kind of put the last season and this season in perspective and find a healthy middle ground that's sustainable for this team, because I don't think last season's performance or this season's is entirely representative of what this team is. So, if they didn't have UC Saros, who knows where they would be in the standings right now. He's been one of the best goalies in the NHL. But I think as long as they have him on their roster, they shouldn't rebuild, and they should just keep trying to build going forward and into next year.
Yeah, like down the stretch, it became clear that this is a team that doesn't need to do a full rebuild. And I think that we got an answer to a pretty good question with this organization down the stretch, and that's that they have some really good young players who really took a step. Tommy Novak, in particular, fantastic down the stretch for Nashville, and is already at a really good age. He's not as young as I thought. He's already 25 years old. Evangelista, Philip Tomasino, and others as well. And they're going to have a good amount of draft picks in these next two drafts as well. Looking at the 2023 draft, they've got 2 first-rounders, 2 seconds, 3 thirds, and 3 picks in the 4th round as well. So, with Nashville, just have a good draft this summer, and then next year just come right back and healthy and be competitive again and look to get into the playoffs. And man, as long as you have UC Saros, you have a chance. And I think that if they were able to squeak into the playoffs, there's always a chance that they could steal a series or two with a guy like UC Saros, who just played out of his mind down the stretch for this team. So I was really impressed with Nashville and how they played down the stretch. All of the odds were against them. It looked like they were having fun. Sometimes a team needs that, like just for the pressure and expectations to kind of be taken off a little bit. And it's clear that they were with this team, and they just played hockey. They played well, and they stayed in it right till the end, which is not what we expected. So moving forward, I'm pretty confident that the Predators are going to stay competitive.
Definitely. A couple things to wrap up on the Preds. First, I was a bit upset earlier in the year when they placed Eli Tolvanen on waivers. To me, that didn't make any sense and wasn't very good asset management, just because the guy wasn't producing in the NHL at the time at the clip that you expected him to. Doesn't mean that he's not a good player and deserves to be placed on waivers. So I didn't like that move in terms of asset management, but they kind of made up for it by trading Tanner Jeannot for an entire draft class from the Tampa Bay Lightning, basically. So, it kind of evens out when you put the two side by side, for me anyways. And then the second thing, UC Saros, like we've talked about how good this goaltender is, and this year especially, he's been, like currently right now, Money Puck, he's ranked number 1 in terms of goals saved above expected. That's my favorite number. That's just incredible. And if you're picking a Vezina winner right now, and maybe we should do this in a full episode, but I mean, he might have my vote. I mean, there's only a couple other guys who are in that conversation right now who have been as good as UC Saros this year. One is Ilya Sorokin, and the other one is Linus Ullmark. And to me, like, I look at those three teams and I look at the numbers through and through, and I look at the team defense, and I just think that what Saros is doing on this team is extremely, extremely impressive.
Yeah, it sure is. Given the fact that a guy like Ullmark has just a powerhouse of a team in front of him, and you'd think that Saros and his numbers would suffer a little bit after all the moves that Nashville made at the deadline and the injuries and everything. But if anything, he got better down the stretch and just played out of his mind. So, Saros is unbelievable, and as long as they have him, the Predators always have a chance.